Now, if you or somebody in your family are ill, whether it's physical or psychological, the illness may serve as a means for you to request and obtain relief from penalties. Here's an example. John and Jane ran a small business as sole proprietors. In 2007, Jane was diagnosed with cancer and her health quickly deteriorated. And by May of that year, she was unable to work. For the next 2 years, she underwent very serious treatments and surgeries. And unfortunately, traditional medicine had not been helping her. So, both of them became consumed with trying to find an alternative remedy. And they traveled far and wide. They incurred very large expenses out of pocket for medical costs and traveling costs. In other words, their lives were devoted to trying to find a cure for Jane. And during that period of time, they did not file their income tax returns on time, nor did they pay the taxes that were due on the income that the business generated. Then, to make matters worse, in 2008, he hurt himself, and he needed 9 months to recuperate and for therapy, during which time he also did not work. When it came time for June of 2011, they realized that they just could not maintain their business, and it closed. But since then, both of them and their medical conditions have remedied, and now they're devoted to getting their lives together. So, when they realized that they had not filed their 2000 through 2011 returns, in December of 2012, they did that. They prepared their returns and they filed them. And they owed a very substantial sum of money for their back taxes. And unfortunately, when the IRS reviewed and computed the penalties and the interest, they owed even more. $5,000 alone in penalties and related interest. And they think that's not fair. And now they're asking, what can they do? Well, the answer is simple, and you know this through Digital Tax Attorney. They can submit a petition for abatement, which you have a copy of. And they can submit their medical records and their bills. They can show Jane's medical condition, the diagnosis. They can show John's condition and his diagnosis. They can show the medical and the psychological challenges, because with those challenges comes depression and upset. They were debilitated. They were debilitated each in their individual ways and also together. And because of that, they're entitled not to be penalized. Now you know that the system, the computer, automatically issues penalties. So they have to step forward and they have to ask that those penalties be removed. Otherwise, those penalties are considered good. Their medical reasons constitute what's called reasonable cause. Reasonable cause is either death, serious illness, or unavoidable absence in the taxpayer's life or in the taxpayer's family's life. And when those or any of those individual things are present, then the taxpayer is entitled to have those penalties removed, meaning that they don't have to pay them. So the lesson is, if you have an illness or somebody in your family has an illness, that means somebody in your extended family who's living underneath the same roof too, or a father or a mother who is not living underneath the same roof. If you consider it a basis to be able to fairly claim that it was upsetting to your life and that you weren't able to do things in a reasonable manner, then seek the abatement of the penalties and provide the reasons and the documents that support it. Even if you prevail on most of the penalties and not all of the penalties, you're still ahead. And the opposite is true too. If you prevail on only some and not all, you are ahead. The key is you have to step forward. So, when you review your transcript, when you review the communications, the letters, and the notices that the IRS sends to you, you have to review them from the point of view of whether the penalties are appropriate. You just don't accept them, and you just don't ignore them. And keep in mind, too, you may be entitled to first-time penalty relief, which was our first fact setting. Thank you.